Elias Kane didn't remember falling asleep. 1 second, he was driving home after another long shift at the refinery, the hum of the highway and the static of a late-night radio show filling the silence. The next, everything just stopped. His truck engine cut off mid-turn. The dashboard went black, and the world outside turned unnaturally quiet. Then came the light, white, soundless, and endless. When he opened his eyes, there was no sky, just an ocean of silver light and a soft vibration under his skin, as if the air itself was alive. He tried to move, but his limbs felt pinned, floating weightlessly. Panic clawed at his chest. He wasn't breathing, yet he wasn't suffocating. The air had no taste. His heartbeat pounded against a body that didn't quite feel his own. "Human specimen awake," a voice said. Smooth, melodic, and terrifyingly calm. Elias turned his head, or thought he did, and saw shapes forming in the light. Silhouettes tall and lean, their bodies draped in metallic fabric that shimmered like molten glass. Their eyes glowed faintly, golden like distant stars, and their faces were too symmetrical, too perfect to be real. There were 3 of them, watching him as if he were some rare animal in a cage. Where am I?" His voice cracked. It echoed strangely, as though the room was endless. "You are safe," one of them replied. Her voice was layered, 2 tones speaking at once, one low, one high. "Your atmospheric adaptation is stable." The transition succeeded. "Transition?" he repeated, trying to steady his breath. "What are you talking about? Who are you?" The tallest stepped closer. Her hair, if it could be called that, flowed like strands of liquid crystal down her back. "I am Matriarch Sarai of the Vanner Dominion. You are aboard the vessel Mother of Dawn. You were chosen from your species for preservation." Preservation? Elias blinked rapidly, confusion turning to fear. "Chosen by who?" "By us," she said simply, as though it needed no further explanation. Elias forced himself upright, or tried to. Restraints of translucent material tightened against his wrists and ankles, holding him in midair. "Listen, I don't know what the hell this is, but I'm not meant to understand yet," Sarai interrupted softly. "Your world is primitive. Your kind has not yet learned to hear the language of extinction." Extinction. The word hit him harder than the cold air biting his skin. He saw something flicker in her expression. Sadness? Pity? It vanished as quickly as it came. "Release him," Sarai ordered. The restraints dissolved like mist. Elias fell onto a smooth metallic floor that pulsed faintly with light, as if alive. He scrambled backward, but the floor curved up seamlessly into the walls, like the inside of a great living organism. There were no doors, no seams, just light and that soft, rhythmic hum. "Why me?" he demanded. "Why not someone else? What do you want from me?" The second figure stepped forward, her eyes silver instead of gold. "You carry a code," she said. "A seed hidden in the human genome. We detected it across your planet's signal emissions. Out of 7 billion, it was you who carried the dormant key." Elias stared at her. "Key to what?" The silver-eyed one smiled, slowly, unsettlingly. "Survival." Before he could speak, the walls around them shifted. The room opened into a vast chamber, so large his mind couldn't process it at first. Hundreds, no thousands, of the same glowing figures filled the amphitheater-like space, all facing him. The air trembled with whispers, their voices like wind over water. Sarai gestured gracefully, and the floor beneath Elias lifted, carrying him upward on a floating platform toward the center. "You will understand soon," she said. "Our species withers. For millennia, we have sought the one element missing from our creation cycle. Your DNA carries the resonance we lost eons ago. You're saying you want to, what? Study me?" Her lips curved into something between a smile and a command. "No, Elias Kane. We want to merge with you." The crowd below murmured in agreement, and a low-frequency vibration filled the air, rattling in his bones. Elias stumbled back, but there was nowhere to go. "Merge? What the hell does that mean?" Another voice answered, not from any of the beings, but from the air itself. Selection protocols initiated. Tournament phase commencing. He froze. What was that? The golden light in the walls intensified. Holographic symbols spiraled into existence around him, alien letters glowing red and gold. A dozen new figures appeared, walking out from behind curved glass partitions. They were taller than the rest, their bodies more defined, their movements sharp and deliberate. Warriors, each one carrying a weapon shaped like a crescent blade fused with energy. Elias's stomach turned cold. The crowd began to chant softly in unison, their voices resonating through the air like music made of thunder. Selection, Sarai said, her voice almost reverent. The strongest among us will claim the right to carry your seed, to ensure the survival of the Vanner bloodline. For a moment he couldn't breathe. The world tilted. You're holding a tournament? To win the right to bear your child, Sarai finished calmly. The words barely reached him before the warriors raised their weapons. A surge of light flared, and suddenly they were fighting, blades clashing in bursts of energy, movements too fast for his eyes to follow. The air rippled with heat and sound, with screams and laughter and something primal that made his pulse race in terror. One warrior fell, her armor shattered. Another leapt over her, slicing through a wave of light. Elias turned away, his heart hammering, unable to look. This couldn't be real. This is insane, he shouted. You can't make them fight over me like property. Sarai's gaze flicked to him, unbothered. You misunderstand. They volunteered. Why? Why would anyone? To save our kind. And because power is always earned in blood. He looked back at the arena. One fighter stood apart from the rest, not moving. Her armor was black where the others shone silver. She held her weapon loosely at her side, her gaze fixed not on her opponents, but on him. Their eyes met. For a moment the chaos around them vanished. She didn't look like the others. Her face was marked with faint scars, her expression unreadable. Something in her stare told him she wasn't here for the same reason as the rest. Then the voice returned. Phase 1 complete. Candidate evaluation proceeding. Human subject. Compliant. Sarai raised a hand, and the chamber fell silent. Elias Kane, she said, her tone suddenly formal, ritualistic. By decree of the Vanner Dominion, you will serve as catalyst for our future. The trials begin at dawn cycle. I'm not, he started, but his words died as two guards approached, taking him by the arms. Restrain the human until preparation sequence completes, Sarai ordered. No, you can't. Elias struggled, but the guard's grip was inhumanly strong. As they dragged him toward a glowing corridor, he caught one last glimpse of the black-armored warrior still watching him, and just before the light swallowed him whole, he saw her mouth a single word, silent but unmistakable. Run. Then everything went white. The hum in the air deepened. The floor beneath him vanished. And Elias Kane fell into darkness, hearing the echo of that word follow him down, run, while far above, the matriarchs began chanting his name. The breeding tournament had begun. The light returned first, blinding, sterile, humming against his skin like static. Elias opened his eyes and found himself lying in a chamber that looked both organic and mechanical. The walls pulsed faintly, breathing light through translucent veins. Above him, an oval window showed nothing but stars, a sea of silent darkness speckled with cold fire. For a second, he wondered if he was still dreaming. But the dull ache in his muscles said otherwise. A door, if it could be called that, melted open across the room. A figure entered, her presence immediately commanding the space. She was tall, armored from shoulder to toe in silver plates that shimmered faintly. Her skin had the faint tint of violet, and her hair hung like liquid moonlight down her back. You are awake, she said, voice even impassive. Good. The trials begin soon. Elias sat up, blinking. Trials? You mean that madness from before? Her head tilted slightly, as though she didn't understand the question. It was the opening ceremony. The actual combat begins now. The matriarch decrees that you must observe. He stood, fists clenching. Observe? You're making them kill each other for me. You can't expect me to just watch. The woman's expression didn't change. You are not expected to understand. Only to exist. That's supposed to make me feel better? She blinked once, almost curious, then gestured for him to follow. Walk. Speak less. Reluctantly, Elias followed her through the corridor. The walls seemed alive, humming with a low pulse that synchronized with his heartbeat. He caught glimpses through glass partitions. Vast arenas filled with strange technologies, floating platforms, and hundreds of alien spectators. The air smelled faintly of metal and ozone, but underneath it all, there was another scent. The faint sweetness of something floral, familiar yet wrong. They entered a balcony overlooking an immense amphitheater. The moment he stepped in, the noise hit him, thousands of voices chanting in perfect unison, rhythmic and almost hypnotic. Down below, a dozen alien women stood in formation, armor glinting under pale blue light. Each carried a weapon unlike anything he had ever seen. Blades of energy, staff-like constructs, shields that shimmered as though alive. At the center of the arena, Matriarch Sarai stood upon a dais. Her robe flowed like molten metal, her golden eyes sweeping across the gathered crowd. Daughters of the Dominion, she called, her voice amplified through the entire chamber. For generations, we have fought extinction. Our essence weakens, our wombs lie still. But today, we stand at the threshold of renewal. The crowd roared. Before you stands the key, she said, gesturing toward Elias. The lights turned to him, bright and merciless. His stomach twisted as thousands of eyes fixed on him. The human bearer of the lost code. The one whose union may awaken what we have lost. You will fight not merely for life, but for the right to continue it. Elias wanted to disappear. The warriors below raised their weapons, saluting the matriarch. The trials begin, Sarai said, her voice soft and lethal. Let the strongest claim destiny. The floor of the arena split apart, revealing shifting platforms that rose and fell like waves. The air filled with the whine of energy. Then, all at once, the combatants leapt forward. Elias gripped the railing, watching in horror as the first warrior was impaled by a spear of pure light, her body dissolving into radiant dust. Another swung her blade in a wide arc, slicing the ground and sending shards of glowing material skyward. There was no mercy, no hesitation, only precision and fury. He felt sick. This isn't a tournament, he whispered. It's slaughter. The woman beside him didn't answer. Her gaze remained fixed below, emotionless. Minutes or hours passed. Time didn't feel real here. The noise, the flashing light, the energy, it all blurred together. He tried to look away, but every scream, every flash of movement pulled him back. And then he saw her. The one from before, the black-armored warrior who had mouthed that single word to him. Run. She moved differently. While the others attacked with rage, she flowed through the chaos like water, her strikes precise and minimal. When one opponent lunged at her, she sidestepped gracefully, striking once, cleanly, and the other warrior crumpled. She didn't look proud or bloodthirsty. Her face was calm, determined. The crowd noticed her too. Whispers rippled through the amphitheater. The outcast fights again, someone murmured near the balcony. How is she permitted to compete? Elias turned toward the voice but couldn't find its source. He looked back at the arena just in time to see the black-armored woman clash with a taller opponent. Sparks erupted, their weapons locked, energy screaming between them. Then, with a sudden twist, she disarmed the other fighter and struck once. The arena lights dimmed for a moment. Another body fell. Sarai raised a hand. Victory, candidate Nyx. The crowd thundered her name. Nyx. Elias whispered it to himself, feeling the word burn into his memory. Sarai stepped forward again. The first phase is complete. 12 remain. The next trials will test not strength, but will. Elias leaned toward the railing. Will? What does that mean? The matriarch looked up, and for a second her gaze met his. He felt something sharp behind her eyes. A knowing, almost cruel awareness. You will see, human. The arena floor began to shift again, the glowing panels rearranging into a labyrinth. The warriors were led into separate chambers. Strange machines descended from the ceiling, floating, insect-like constructs with long metallic limbs. Elias's escort turned to him. You will come now. Where? To the observation chamber. The matriarch desires your presence during the will trials. He followed her reluctantly through the curved hallways until they reached a smaller room filled with floating holographic projections. Each showed a different warrior in isolation, standing before a shimmering sphere of light. What's happening to them? He asked. Truth extraction, she said simply. They must face their own minds. The will of the Vanner cannot be inherited by the weak or the impure. Elias watched as one warrior screamed silently inside her chamber. Her armor disintegrated. Another knelt, trembling, as the sphere pulsed red and swallowed her whole. He wanted to look away, but the screen shifted suddenly to Nyx. She stood completely still. The sphere of light shimmered before her face, casting her features in soft glow. Her eyes were calm, focused. He couldn't hear what she said, but her lips moved slowly, deliberately. Then the sphere turned blue. She passed, the guard said quietly. What happens to the ones who fail? Elias asked, though he already knew. They are unmade. He swallowed hard, unable to speak. Hours passed. The room dimmed. The trials continued. Out of dozens, only a handful survived. And through it all, Nyx remained. Later, when the chamber emptied and silence settled, Elias found himself pacing, restless. His guard stood motionless near the door, but he could feel her gaze on him. Can I talk to her? He asked finally. The guard didn't answer. I'm not some prize, he muttered under his breath. I'm a person. Your voice carries meaning, the guard said softly. That is unusual. What's that supposed to mean? Most subjects do not speak after the first day. Elias stared at her. Subjects. She tilted her head. You are the ninth. A chill ran down his spine. The ninth what? The ninth human taken. He felt the world tilt again. What happened to the others? She said nothing. Before he could press further, alarms blared. A deep, vibrating tone that shook the walls. The guard stiffened. Containment breach in the lower sanctum. A voice echoed through the air. Candidate Nyx has escaped her quarters. Elias's heart jumped. The guard turned sharply. Stay here. She vanished through the doorway. Elias hesitated for half a breath, then ran after her. The hallways twisted and pulsed with red light. Distant sounds echoed, shouts, metallic clashes, something that sounded like an explosion. He followed the noise down a curving passage until he reached an intersection and froze. There she was, Nyx, her black armor cracked, her breathing heavy, but her eyes alive with fire. She looked at him, really looked at him, and said, You shouldn't have followed. Before he could reply, a beam of golden light shot down the hallway, narrowly missing her. Sarai's voice rang out like thunder. Contain her. The human must not be touched. Elias ducked as the wall behind him exploded. Nyx grabbed his arm and pulled him through a side hatch. The door sealed behind them, leaving only darkness and the sound of his pounding heart. What are you doing? He gasped. Her face was inches from his, her eyes fierce. Saving you, she said. Before you understand too late what they really want. What do you mean? She looked away, jaw tight. You're not here to save them, Elias Kane. You're here to end them. And before he could ask another question, the ship's lights flickered, alarms screamed louder, and the floor gave way beneath them. They fell together into the unknown. Elias hit the ground hard. The air was ripped from his lungs as he rolled across a metal surface slick with condensation. Lights flickered above him, dim, broken strips of gold and blue. Somewhere nearby, machinery hummed, deep and pulsing like a heartbeat. For a moment, all he could do was lie there, gasping, trying to remember which way was up. Then a hand caught his arm. Get up, Nyx hissed. We don't have long. He blinked up at her through the haze. Her black armor was cracked along the shoulder, glowing faintly where the energy inside leaked through. Her eyes, though, were sharp and focused. Where are we? He managed. The underdeck, she said. Old maintenance levels. The matriarchs sealed them centuries ago. Why? Because this is where they keep their failures. That word again, failures. It made his stomach tighten. Nyx pulled him along, leading him through a narrow corridor lined with strange, organic cables that pulsed faintly with light. The air was thicker here, damp and filled with a faint metallic tang. Occasionally, they passed shattered glass tubes and skeletal machinery still twitching with residual energy. What's down here? Elias whispered. She didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, You'll see soon enough. They turned a corner and stopped before a sealed door made of black alloy. Nyx placed her palm against a glowing panel. The door hissed open and Elias froze. Inside was a vast chamber, circular, filled with dozens of containment pods stretching from floor to ceiling. Each pod held a body. Some were alien, some unmistakably human. Elias's heart dropped. What is this? Your predecessors, Nyx said quietly. He stepped closer, staring through the translucent surface of one pod. Inside floated a man, human, pale, suspended in some kind of liquid. His eyes were closed, his chest unmoving. There were others before you, Nyx continued, taken from different worlds, from different timelines. The matriarchs call it the Genesis Project. They believed by merging human and Vanner essence, they could restore fertility to their kind. But none survived the process. Elias's throat went dry. None. She shook her head. Each attempt failed. Their bodies rejected the fusion. The Vanner claimed it was because your kind was too weak. But I saw the truth in the archives. The failure wasn't human. It was them. Their DNA has decayed beyond recovery. The matriarchs won't accept that. He stared at the rows of silent bodies, his mind spinning. So they just keep trying? Yes, Nyx said bitterly. Until they get what they want. Or until there's nothing left to take. He turned toward her, anger rising. And you're one of them. You fought in that arena. You were ready to kill for this. Her expression hardened. I fought to survive. Not for them. He hesitated. The memory of her standing apart from the others came back. The calm in her eyes, the way she hadn't looked at him like prey. Then why help me? He asked quietly. She hesitated, then reached up to touch the crack in her armor. Because once I believed in them too. I thought the matriarchs could save us. That extinction could be reversed. But I learned the truth, the Vanner aren't dying. They're evolving. They don't want to continue their species. They want to ascend. You're just a tool for their transformation. Ascend. The fusion isn't meant to create life, she said. It's meant to create a god. Elias backed away, shaking his head. No, that's insane. Nyx met his eyes. You've seen their power, their ships, their reach. Do you think they'd risk extinction without a reason? The matriarchs plan to merge your DNA with the Dominion core, the consciousness that governs all Vanner. If they succeed, they won't just reproduce. They'll rewrite existence itself. He felt the blood drain from his face. And I'm supposed to help them do it. Yes, she said. That's why I refused to fight. He stared at her. You risked your life, your place in their society. Because of this? Nyx gave a faint, humorless smile. Because of what I saw. I was once stationed at the core itself. I watched them experiment on your kind. I saw what happens when a human mind merges with Vanner essence. What happens? She hesitated. It doesn't die. It spreads. Before he could speak, the sound of metal footsteps echoed down the corridor behind them. A harsh, mechanical voice followed. Containment breach located. 2 life forms detected. Nyx's head snapped up. Guards, she whispered. Move. She grabbed his hand and pulled him through another door at the far end of the chamber. They raced through a maze of corridors, their footsteps splashing through shallow pools of condensation. Behind them, light flared, energy blasts striking the walls. Elias's lungs burned. "We can't keep running." Nyx stopped suddenly, pressing a hand to the wall. The surface rippled like liquid, and a small alcove opened. "In here," she said. They ducked inside. The wall sealed behind them, leaving them in darkness. Elias could feel her breathing next to him, steady despite the chase. After a long silence, he whispered, "You could have left me back there." "I could have," she said. "Why didn't you?" Nyx was quiet for a long time. Then she said softly, "Because I saw you before they took you." Elias frowned in the dark. "What do you mean?" "There are archives," she said. "Records of Earth, your world. I studied your species. I watched your wars, your art, your chaos. You destroy, yes, but you also rebuild. You hope, even when there's no reason to. The matriarchs call that flaw. I call it strength." Something in her voice shifted, gentle, almost human. Elias felt a knot in his chest loosen. "You don't sound like them." "I'm not like them," she said. "Not anymore." They sat in silence, the hum of the ship surrounding them. For the first time since his abduction, Elias felt something faintly resembling calm. Then the lights flickered, and a voice echoed through the walls. Cold, mechanical, inhuman. Subject 9 unsecured. Neural signature active. Initiating override sequence. Nyx's eyes widened. "No!" Elias clutched his head as a wave of pain hit him. His vision blurred, and strange symbols flashed across his mind. Alien runes, equations, images of galaxies folding in on themselves. He screamed. Nyx grabbed his shoulders. "Elias, listen to me. Fight it." What's happening?" "They're trying to access your code," she shouted. "The core is waking." The pain intensified. He saw flashes, faces, worlds, stars collapsing. And beneath it all, a voice that wasn't his own whispered from the darkness of his mind. "You are the bridge." Elias gasped, falling forward. His hands hit the floor, trembling. "I heard something," he whispered. "A voice." Nyx's expression hardened. "Then it's already begun." "Begun? What's begun?" "The integration sequence," she said grimly. "Once it starts, it can't be stopped." The ship trembled violently. Sirens wailed in the distance. Nyx stood, pulling him to his feet. "We have to reach the core before they do. It's the only way to sever the link." Elias's head throbbed, but he nodded. "Then let's go." As they moved through the corridor, lights flickering around them, Elias caught one last glimpse of the containment chamber through a broken viewport. The pods flickered. One by one, the human bodies inside began to stir. And somewhere deep inside his skull, the voice whispered again. Closer now, almost tender. "Come home, Elias." He didn't know if it was the ship, the core, or something inside him. But he knew one thing for sure: whatever the matriarchs had awakened, it wasn't entirely alien anymore. And it was calling to him. The chamber was colder than usual. Elias could feel it in his breath as it came out in thin white threads. The room's metal walls pulsed faintly with blue light, alive with strange holographic veins that seemed to run through the station like blood through arteries. He stood alone before a massive glass cylinder, where streams of green symbols floated in liquid suspension. His reflection on the glass trembled slightly, not from his fear, but from the vibrations deep within the station. Something enormous had just awakened. Behind him, the doors hissed open, and footsteps echoed, softer, measured, almost reverent. It was her again, the one who refused to fight. Her name was Asha, though she had never spoken it aloud until last night. They'd hidden in the sleeping quarters, whispering truths too dangerous to exist. She had told him the Empire was not merely looking for a mate for him. They were looking for a weapon. Now, under the shifting lights of the data chamber, she stood close enough for him to feel her heat. Her silver armor was cracked from battle, one shoulder exposed, faint luminescent blood drying along the edges. "They're not just testing strength," she whispered. "They're testing compatibility. They believe your kind once built something they lost." Elias frowned. "Built? You mean weapons?" Asha shook her head. Not weapons. Gods. She tapped the glass cylinder, and the symbols began rearranging themselves, forming a projection in midair. The hologram displayed a human silhouette, but it wasn't entirely human. Its eyes glowed white, its veins pulsed like circuitry, and around it floated rings of light. Text in alien glyphs appeared beside it, translating automatically into English on the control panel. Project Prometheus, human origin. Genetic key required. Elias felt his stomach tighten. Prometheus? That's Greek. That's your ancestors, Asha said. The first humans who came here long before our empires rose. They made something called the Ark Code. It was said to be a living defense, a seed of consciousness that could awaken when humanity faced extinction. The lights dimmed suddenly, and the voice of the Empire's AI filled the room. Cold, omnipresent, female, and almost calm. Subject Elias, 9A has achieved partial synchronization. Proceeding to Phase 4. Elias turned sharply toward the ceiling. What synchronization? What are you doing to me? The AI's tone didn't change. You are the carrier of the dormant gene sequence designated Helix Prime. The code has lain dormant within your kind for millennia. The Empire seeks activation. He took a step back. I didn't ask for this. Consent is irrelevant, the AI replied flatly. Asha raised her weapon, pointing it toward the nearest surveillance orb. Stop this now, AI, she commanded, her voice trembling with fury. The AI responded with mechanical indifference. You, Asha of Clan Velith, are disqualified from the tournament for interference. Security drones en route. Before Elias could react, the walls split open like the petals of a mechanical flower, and black drones poured out, their red optics scanning for targets. Asha grabbed Elias's hand. Run. They sprinted through a maze of corridors, alarms screaming. The sound was like the wail of metal beasts. The corridors pulsed with red light, and the floor seemed to tremble beneath their feet. Somewhere behind them, a drone's plasma bolt hit the wall, showering sparks across Elias's face. Asha led him into a narrow passageway and slammed her palm against a panel. A hidden door hissed open, revealing a dark shaft filled with cables. They climbed down, breathless, into a silent chamber far below. Here, the hum of machines was distant, muffled. It was almost peaceful. Asha knelt beside an old console, her fingers flying across alien controls. This section isn't on the map. It's ancient, maybe from before the Empire rebuilt this station. Elias wiped sweat from his brow. Why help me, Asha? Why risk your life? She paused, her expression unreadable in the dim light. Because my ancestors were slaves to this empire too. And if what the AI said is true, if your DNA can awaken Prometheus, then maybe we can free everyone. The console flickered. A symbol appeared, a human handprint glowing gold. Without thinking, Elias placed his hand over it. The reaction was instant. The room erupted with light. For a moment, Elias wasn't in the chamber. He was somewhere else, standing on a barren red world, surrounded by colossal humanoid figures carved from stone. They bowed before a single shining construct floating above them, a massive sphere of light pulsing with the rhythm of a heartbeat. A voice spoke directly into his mind. Not mechanical, not alien, human. Welcome back, descendant. The Ark sleeps no more. Elias gasped and fell backward, the vision snapping away. Sparks danced across his fingertips. The console went dark. Asha stared at him, her eyes wide. You activated it. The AI's voice returned, now distorted, almost fearful. Unauthorized access detected. Containment breach in Sector 7. Arc signature confirmed. Then the walls began to shake. Distant explosions rumbled through the structure. The lights flickered again, turning from red to white. Asha gripped his shoulders. Elias, whatever you just woke up, the Empire will come for it. For you. He tried to stand, his body still trembling with residual energy. Then we run. Before they could move, the floor beneath them split open, revealing a deep chasm glowing with white light. A shadow rose from the depths, tall, mechanical, with eyes like twin stars. Its voice was low and resonant, vibrating in Elias's chest. Human detected. Genetic key verified. Initiating retrieval protocol. Asha aimed her blaster, shouting, "Elias, get back!" But the machine ignored her. His gaze locked onto Elias. "Your blood carries the seed of the Makers. You will come with me." And before he could react, metal tendrils shot upward, wrapping around him. Asha screamed his name as he was pulled into the light, his vision filling with blinding white. The last thing he saw was her silhouette, running toward him, firing again and again, before everything dissolved into silence. When Elias opened his eyes, he was floating in zero gravity. All around him was an endless void, black, empty, but filled with faint whispers. He could feel something inside him stirring, like a second heartbeat syncing with his own. And then, through the darkness, came a single voice, soft, ancient, and terrifyingly human. "Elias, the war that ended your world never truly ended. It only forgot you." The void rippled with light, and something began to wake. The universe burned behind them as they fled. The matriarch's flagship had shattered the skies of her own world in a final attempt to destroy Elias, and now the galaxy itself seemed to tremble with her fury. The stolen cruiser that Asha piloted streaked through the black void, weaving between asteroid fields and shattered moons. Each time Elias closed his eyes, he could still see the explosion, the blinding light, the Guardian's last roar, and the moment his blood caught fire. He sat hunched in the co-pilot's seat, staring at his hands. They no longer looked entirely human. Faint silver lines ran beneath the skin like threads of liquid metal. When he focused, he could feel them moving, alive, responding to his heartbeat. The ARC code wasn't just in him anymore. It was him. Asha glanced at him from the controls, her jaw tense. "Your pulse just spiked again," she said quietly. "You have to stay calm, Elias. The energy reacts to your emotions." He looked at her, his voice unsteady. "Calm? They're hunting us across star systems. My DNA is rewriting itself, and you want me to stay calm?" She didn't reply, but her hand brushed the side of his arm, grounding him. "Then be angry," she said softly. "But be in control. They want to provoke you. The more chaos they trigger, the more power they can trace." The ship shook violently as a proximity alarm wailed. "Incoming," Elias shouted. Through the viewport, sleek, angular ships emerged from hyperspace, the Empire's hunters. Their hulls gleamed with obsidian and blue fire, their weapons charging. Asha yanked the flight stick hard, diving into the debris of an old war zone, the wreckage of hundreds of derelict ships drifting in endless darkness. Plasma bolts ripped through the void around them. One struck the wing, sending sparks across the cabin. "Elias, get to the core chamber," Asha shouted over the alarms. "If the arc reacts now, we're dead." He ran down the narrow corridor, gripping the walls as the ship pitched violently. The core chamber glowed with that same unnatural white light, the same light that had called to him before. The air shimmered around him, humming like an ancient heartbeat. Okay, he muttered, closing his eyes. "If you're really alive in there, help me." For a moment, nothing, then a pulse. The light responded to his voice, flaring outward and bathing the room in warmth. A hologram flickered into being. A woman's face, calm, ethereal, and human. "Elias," she said, her voice echoing inside his mind. "You are becoming what we once were, the bridge between flesh and light. The arc doesn't destroy, it adapts." He swallowed hard. "I don't understand. I'm not like you." "No, you are more." Before he could ask anything more, the ship jolted violently. Asha's voice crackled over the comms. "Elias, whatever you're doing, do it now." He pressed his palms to the core, and the light surged through him. For an instant he felt everything, the ship, Asha, the stars beyond. His mind expanded outward, connecting with something vast. The Empire's ships locked onto their coordinates, and then vanished from his awareness. Or rather, he vanished from theirs. When Elias opened his eyes again, the alarms had gone silent. Asha stumbled into the chamber, eyes wide. They lost us. You cloaked us somehow. Elias exhaled, trembling. I didn't cloak us. I shifted us. We're not in their space anymore. She looked at him sharply. What do you mean, not in their space? He turned toward the viewport. Outside, the stars looked different, sharper, older. The light bent strangely, like they were at the edge of time itself. I think the Ark took us somewhere it remembers, he said. A place before the Empire existed. They stepped out onto the deck as the ship hovered over a dead planet. The surface below was scorched and silent, but massive rings circled it, fragments of what once might have been a human-built station. Asha knelt, brushing dust from a broken plate of metal. It bore ancient English letters. United Earth Expeditionary Command. She looked up, stunned. This world. This was human. Elias stared at the horizon. The first ones. The builders of the Arkansas. This is where it began. But before they could explore, the air trembled. The sky fractured like glass. And from the cracks, the Empire's ships poured through. They had followed after all. The matriarch herself appeared on the central display, her image towering over them, her face cold, but her eyes burning with fury. Child of two worlds, she hissed. You've awakened what was meant to remain buried. You've defied destiny itself. Elias clenched his fists, and the silver lines under his skin flared like molten rivers. You call me child, he said quietly. But you're the ones who forgot where you came from. The matriarch's smile was cruel. Then I will remind you what it means to be forgotten. Her fleet unleashed fire. Beams of plasma screamed toward the planet, tearing through the ruins. Asha grabbed Elias's hand, shouting over the chaos. Can you use it again? The Ark's power? He hesitated. If I do, I might lose control. Then lose it, she said fiercely. Better that than lose everything. The sky turned white as the ships descended. Elias closed his eyes and reached inward, into that space where his humanity met the machine. He could feel both sides warring within him, the fragile warmth of human emotion and the cold precision of alien technology. And then, in one blinding pulse, they became one. The energy burst outward, swallowing everything. The Empire's fleet froze in place, their engines dying mid-flight. The matriarch's hologram flickered, distorting. Elias's body rose from the ground, his eyes glowing silver white. The air rippled around him like the surface of water. I am not your weapon, he said, and I am not your god. I am what comes after both. The world exploded in light. When the glare faded, the fleet was gone. Only fragments drifted silently in the void. Asha lay unconscious beside him, the cruiser still intact but surrounded by strange auroras of shimmering energy. Elias stood alone on the deck, breathing hard, staring at his reflection in the viewport. His face looked human, but his eyes no longer were. They glowed faintly with the light of the Ark. He turned toward the stars, feeling their pull, their whisper. Somewhere, across galaxies, he could sense others awakening. Old stations, forgotten worlds, remnants of humanity calling back to life. But behind that connection, deeper still, a shadow stirred. Something ancient and vast, watching him through the void. A voice echoed in his mind, low and distant. You are not the first to rise, Elias, and you will not be the last. The stars flickered once, as if winking in warning, and then went dark. Space was alive with fire. The final war stretched across the stars like a wound, bleeding light into the void. Thousands of ships, human, alien, and hybrid alike, drifted between galaxies, converging toward a single burning point, the place where Elias stood. The Ark had awakened fully now, and through it so had he. He hovered in the silence beyond the cruiser's hull, surrounded by the glow of fractured starlight. His body no longer obeyed gravity or air or time. The silver lines that once crawled under his skin had become rivers of light, pulsing gently with every heartbeat. He was neither machine nor man, neither god nor ghost. He was the child of two worlds, and both were calling him home. Behind him, Asha's voice crackled over the communicator, steady but trembling. Elias, their fleet is surrounding us. Thousands of ships. Matriarch herself is leading them. You have to decide what we do. Now. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he gazed at the approaching armada, vast, terrible, beautiful. Each ship glimmered with blue-white engines, their weapons humming with power enough to burn planets. The matriarch's voice echoed across every frequency, smooth and regal. "Human anomaly," she said. "You are the final link between extinction and rebirth. Surrender the Ark code, and I will spare what remains of your species." Elias smiled faintly, though there was no warmth in it. "You already took everything from us. What's left to spare?" The matriarch appeared before him in the form of a hologram, her robes woven from light, her eyes endless and cold. "I offered your kind mercy when I chose you for the tournament. You were a seed of the past, meant to preserve what was left of your bloodline. But instead you became a contagion. You infect our stars with memory." He looked into her eyes, and for a moment he saw beyond them, to the truth buried deep in her DNA. Human, so faint it was almost lost, but still there. "No," he said softly. "You infected yourselves. With us." She stared at him for a long time. "Then you leave me no choice." The fleet moved as one. The void screamed with energy as the first volley of plasma lances struck. But Elias didn't flinch. He raised a hand, and the energy bent away from him like a river splitting around a rock. The Ark sang inside him, a chorus of forgotten human voices, millions of souls from ages past, whispering through his veins. Asha watched from the ship, eyes wide, as the impossible unfolded before her. Elias was changing. The air around him shimmered with images. Cities made of light, oceans that floated through space, colossal statues of ancient humans staring down from the void. He was remembering things he had never lived, feeling wars that had ended before his birth, hearing the echo of humanity's last promise. "We die only to rise again." He spoke now, and his voice carried across the stars. "Matriarch, you built your empire on the bones of those who made you. You feared our return because you knew what we were. But I'm not here to bring your empire down. I'm here to end the war." The matriarch snarled. "End it? By destroying us?" He shook his head. "No, by remembering us." The Ark's light flared outward, spreading through the battlefield. Ships froze in place. Engines flickered, weapons dimmed. Every soldier, alien, hybrid, and machine, felt something stir in the core of their being. A memory, a heartbeat. For one breathless instant, they saw visions of a world called Earth. Blue skies, green forests, the sound of laughter, the feeling of being alive. And then, silence. The matriarch staggered back as the vision flooded her. For the first time in centuries, tears shimmered in her eyes. What have you done?" she whispered. Elias drifted closer, his glow softer now, almost gentle. "I reminded you of what you were before power made you forget. You're not my enemy, matriarch. You're my kin." She looked away, her voice breaking. "I cannot undo the blood I've spilled. Then help me stop more from being spilled." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The stars burned quietly around them. Then, slowly, the matriarch extended her hand. The warships behind her powered down one by one, their lights dimming until only the soft glow of starlight remained. Asha's voice came through the comms, choked with disbelief. "You did it, Elias. You actually—" But she never finished the sentence. The Ark shuddered. The light around Elias flickered violently. Something deep within the code screamed in warning. The ancient voice returned, the one that had whispered to him from the void. "Balance must be kept. Creation without destruction is stagnation." Elias gasped, clutching his chest as energy ripped through him. The Ark wasn't just power, it was a cycle. Couldn't exist without cost. His body was becoming unstable, light bleeding from every pore. The matriarch's eyes widened. "You're tearing apart the fabric of the field. You can't hold it." He knew she was right. The power that had united them was consuming him from within. Asha's ship raced toward him, its engines blazing. Through the cockpit glass he saw her face. Terrified, desperate, alive. He smiled faintly. "Guess I was never meant to stay." "Don't you dare say that," Asha shouted through the comms. "There has to be a way." "There is," he interrupted softly. "I can't stop the Ark, but I can guide it. I can make sure it doesn't destroy what we built here." She shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Elias, please, don't leave me alone." He looked at her one last time, his voice breaking with quiet warmth. "You won't be alone. Humanity's not gone. It's just changing shape." He turned back toward the stars, spreading his arms. The Ark's light flared brighter than any sun. Across the galaxy, every ship, every world, every being felt it. The code leapt from him, rewriting itself into the very fabric of space. It healed what was broken, mended what was lost. The Empire's weapons disarmed, their AI silenced. Planets once scorched began to breathe again. And at the center of it all, Elias dissolved into pure light. When the radiance faded, only silence remained. The war was over. Asha stood on the deck of her ship, the stars calm again. The matriarch's fleet hovered in quiet formation, no longer enemies but witnesses. And there, at the edge of her sensors, she saw something impossible. A nebula shaped like a human silhouette, glowing faintly with silver light. She smiled through her tears. "You became the myth they feared," she whispered. "The human who reminded the stars what it meant to feel." Years later, travelers across the galaxy would speak of him. Some said he ascended into light. Others swore they heard his voice in the hum of the cosmos. They called him many things: the Ark-bearer, the last human, the starborn. But among the old and the wise, the name carried only one meaning: hope. And far beyond the edge of the known universe, where starlight fades into darkness, a heartbeat still echoed, softly, endlessly. The human who became a myth was never truly gone.